important. Alright, so let's move on to the next body of knowledge. It's actually body of knowledge. Now we are at 5, right? 5 is plan development. Plan development, there's actually 3 parts in the plan development. Let's go to the first part, plan development. Now, again, plan development, basically what we have done is this. In order to develop plan, once we have the BI, business impact analysis, we have the recovery strategy. Basically, the writing of plan is very easy. So why is it easy? Because we have identified the critical business function. We identified the strategy to recover the critical business function. In the plan development process, we actually drill down the recovery strategy into executable steps. That's basically what plan development is all about. This is where we tie up all the coordination requirement. Example, do we have anything to grab during a disaster? Do we have what is the call tree? How do you have where's all our telephone numbers? What are our key contacts people? How do we communicate with the command center? Okay, or sometimes it's called emergency operations center. Where is our alternate site location? What is where are we sitting? What are the resources that are available at the site? So this is where, at the plan level, we tie up the total logistic and coordination requirement inside the plan itself. Alright, so this will be more the plan itself. But inside the plan itself, there's actually 2 major components. One is called emergency response. Now, emergency response is actually built in. Reasons because most of the incident emergency, if not managed properly, will become a disaster or crisis. Right? So your job is to make sure that emergency and the incidents do not become a disaster. However, these processes is usually not managed by you. It's outside your control. So your job is to make sure that you tie up with the right person to ensure that this process is managed properly. Example, if there's a fire and the emergency response procedure is not to call for a fire ambulance, it's actually to fight the fire first. Once you fight the fire is put up, and that's it. Technically, you just finish you just responded to an emergency. But if you don't do the response properly, the fire became a big fire, and that's it. You now have a disaster. So that's the reason why we need to understand what an emergency response procedure in all your organization. And in Singapore, we are quite blessed because we don't have very, very complex. Example, some emergency response procedure includes anthrax. Anthrax, actually, when white powder gets out, drop on the floor, you must know what to do. Bomb hooks. We call it bomb hooks for now because people call it and say there's a bomb. What do you do? All these are emergency response. And tremors. We have tremors. So these are, do you leave the building or do you not leave the building? All these are response whereby you have to develop some form of procedure for it. Now the key thing is this: the integration between incident emergency with the BC plan. The moment the incident is expected to become a disaster, that's where we had introduced a concept called disaster declaration officer. When first we do a damage assessment. So the concept is we do a damage assessment. Once the damage assessment is done, the damage assessment team will actually inform senior management. Normally it's called crisis management team, right? And ask this person for approval, for permission to activate the plan. That's why I say this concept is important, because the damage assessment team will ask the crisis management team for permission before activating. Once the crisis management team, the chairman of crisis management team say yes, then the disaster declaration officer will activate the plan. Okay, so this entire concept must be very clear, because in reality that's the approach. Okay, because if we don't get this approach, then a lot of people don't know how to activate the plan. So the activation of the plan becomes a very critical part of the entire process itself. Most importantly is once it is activated, what do you do next? If it's office hour, you'll be assembly area. If it's not office hour, you're probably at home, and then that's where the notification call tree takes place to activate everybody to move to alternate site now. So the entire objective of the plan itself, as I mentioned, is the first principle of BCM, is still to ensure that the people, the safety of people is taken care of. Alright, so this will be it. The last part of the plan development is actually crisis management, or we call it incident command ICS system. Now, why is incident command system important? Because in international best practice, we as BC manager will actually liaise with the civil authorities. In our context, will be let's say SCDF and also the police, okay, and in ambulance services. So, what is ICS? ICS is a system. ICS is a management system. It has nothing to do with organization chart. Within ICS itself, we have the incident commander, and then we have four basic entities. One will be logistic, one is admin and finance, and one is tactical, and one does the strategic planning. So there is actually four concepts within the ICS itself, right? So the important thing about ICS is this: the key message is that when we are doing ICS, all of you must understand how do we operate among the interagency. Okay, so ICS is a management system. ICS is not, like what I mentioned, is not an organization chart. Alright, so all of you have to really understand this concept. And like I say, the ICS structure such as operations, planning, intelligence, logistics, finance, and admin. Alright, and it's headed by incident commander. Page 158, if you have it. Alright, what does command? Command is the highest level of that sets objective and priority for the exercise. And operations wise, they will conduct the tactical aspect. Planning intelligence is the strategic planning of it. Logistics to make sure that you provide all the hotels, accommodation, and all the other services to support the incident. Finance and administration basically scrutinize the fundings that is allocated for the disaster. Now, the key thing in ICS that all of you have to remember is this: when do you change the incident commander? Okay, this concept again is very remote, because in Singapore, the police or SCDF just come on the ground and that's it. Good luck to you. They are not interested. They take over your scene. Our job is actually to make sure that we integrate them, and there are a few things that will happen. ICS, the first thing is that the first person, most senior person on the ground becomes the incident commander. The next person, when do we change to the next incident commander? When the situation is stabilized by the first incident commander and the incoming person is handling another set of emergency, and hence that person will assume an incident commander. Let's say example, there's an accident, and the ambulance service comes first. Ambulance service will be incident commander. Evacuate the casualty, but after evacuating, they found that the oil is leaking and possibility of an explosion. Then the fire brigade comes in, and when fire brigade comes in, they put out the fire. So the ambulance services will hand over the incident command to actually the fire brigade. That's how the whole operation looks like. Then the police will come, and once the fire is put out, the police role is to stabilize the surrounding, and the police will assume the incident commander. So the change of incident commander will be first there's a change of the incident itself. Number two, the next higher ranking officer comes, but only one condition, that the incident is stabilized. Last but not least, the last part of the incident management comes from the change of incident commander when it goes over a long period. Let's say example, you're fighting a forest fire. 8 hours after fighting, you need to rest. So when you rest, the new team comes in. That will be a new incident commander. So that will be the concept of incident commander. All right. Just for info, SCDF practice is ICS, except it's not integrated with the surveillance community yet. Right. In most countries, these concepts is actually built together with the community itself. So this concept is part of the requirement, because this is a course that's run internationally. All right. So this will be ICS. The last part of the plan is crisis communication. Now, crisis communication, few things. All of you need to take note that as a BCP manager, sometimes you are actually involved in the crisis communication. We tend to actually appoint a spokesperson, but the feeding of the information comes from you. Okay, so crisis communication is actually done in conjunction with the BCP manager, and the few concepts that you need to remember. one of the things that I'm seeing even up to today, whenever you have a problem, never tell the press no comments. No comments means you're blatantly lying in front of my face. That's what it means. Okay, so what are the things you must do? Make sure you must appoint a person who is qualified. And qualified means what? Means that he must know organization, and he also must know how to answer the right question. So it could be a CEO, the MD, I really don't care, but make sure that the person is qualified and supported by people who are qualified. So in terms of press, we need to, media, crisis communication, we need to understand what media we have. We have paper, we have radios, and of course the latest that we're having problem with are internet. It means we have actually forums, we have chat, we have blogs, and a lot of other forums. If we are a big organization, we need to be very, very careful, because these are issues that we will encounter as we go along. Alright, so this is in a nutshell for BOK 5 plan development. I recap, there's few things. First, the plan development itself, the emergency response section, and then we have the ICS, we have the crisis management, and we have the crisis communication. These are the 5 major areas within the body of knowledge plan development. Okay, anyone has any questions?
The incident commander will be the first person to reach the site, or?
First person on site will be considered incident commander. Then the next part of the discussion will be when is he relieved of his responsibility. Okay, it's a very important concept, because in the event of a major disaster, we don't know who's the incident chief. So with the ICS now, it's very clear. The changeover of the incident commander allows the incident commander to have command and control over all assets on the ground, so that the police will not fight with the fire brigade will not fight with the other agencies. And in some major disaster, we have Red Cross, Blue Crescents, Oxford, all these are on the ground. Who takes command from each other? So the ICS system takes over.
So, okay, for my company example, it will be my technician will be the first one on site. So he will report to his manager, who in turn will report to the...
No, incident commander means incident management normally deals with the fire brigade. Means if your building is down, and then you as a BC manager ties up directly with the police, the fire brigade. Okay, how do you operate? Because the incident guys, the first guy comes will be incident commander. Let's say a fire brigade, he's the incident commander. Let's say police comes, police will assume there's incident commander. So you, in our context, which is not practiced properly, you will talk to the incident commander as time goes by. So, but the problem is that incident commander change, because the situation will change.
No, just because this part is quite confusing. Even when we discuss among ourselves, it's quite confusing. But I think this one clear up.
Okay, I spent 3 days in US doing incident commander, and we actually fight a couple of disasters.
No, but US has a very established national incident command.
Because it comes under FEMA itself. Yeah. So, but in our case, this concept is important, because being an international course, we're not very heavy on this. In most of the US course, actually you spend almost half a day doing this.
Understanding the whole system.
So for us, understanding the concept of system, whereby if you operate, at least you know that there's 4 levels. The operations, the planning intelligence, the logistics, what's the purpose? How do you integrate? Who's the incident commander? In reality, how do we integrate with the commander? Because as we go through the disaster over the next few days, the incident commander starts to change. Then who the hell is the person am I supposed to talk to? Okay, in Singapore, it's always to the police, right? Or the SCDF, something like that. But in a lot of countries, it's not obvious, because we're county police, we have actually sheriff, we have state police, and we have national troopers. Right. So who is the boss? We really don't know until we understand the incident itself. All right, so that's ICS.